When you think of the New York State Department of Transportation, you probably imagine projects, planning, or filling potholes and snowblowing, and, well, it's definitely part of the job. But DOT employees don't just live and breathe transportation. They've got plenty of hobbies and passions outside the job.
The New York State Department of Transportation presents the DOT POD.
And welcome into the DOT POD. I'm Josh Heller.
And I'm Anya Cardos.
And we are delighted to have you joining us.
Well, when the hard hats come off and the laptops close, DOT employees do all kinds of interesting things that showcase how passionate they are, not just about their work, but also the world around them. And that is why we're talking about hobbies today. Josh, I know you've got a few. You like to work out? You like hockey?
I do. I'm a level 2 coach at Albany CrossFit here in Albany, New York. I'm currently training for a couple triathlons this year, so I do enjoy that. I think most people know that I used to broadcast hockey on the radio professionally, and
still do from time to time.
I still do from time to time when I can,
broadcasts.
and I love to sing. I've been singing since I was a little kid. Was in choirs growing up. Was in an a cappella group in college. We were in a band, so I don't do that quite as much. But you get me at a karaoke bar, we'll have some fun.
Yeah, I am the same.
How about you?
I do love a good karaoke moment. That is actually how I met my husband. He is a really good singer too, and he sang Roxanne. And I was singing backup, so yeah, he can hit the high notes. It's pretty good. And we like to go hiking as a family.
Yeah,
us and my husband and I and our 2 boys, and we do that a lot in the Adirondacks.
Yeah, not a bad place to do it, that's for sure. Well, today we're talking about some of the fun stuff that contributes really to what makes our great public servants great.
So let's start with our Chief Data Officer, Mike Rossy. This is his second time being on the podcast, and while he's not busy running DOT's Office of Data Management, he's also, a real lightweight here, 6th-degree black belt, a longtime gamer, and most recently, a published author. Welcome back, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you back here.
Yeah.
Good to have you back here, Mike.
Congratulations.
I know, right?
It's exciting.
Yeah.
So when we've had you on, this was a while ago, one of our early episodes,
That's
talking
right.
about the new office. And we also touched upon your gaming. We touched upon your martial arts experience. But today we're gonna touch a little bit on your authorship. So
sure.
Tell us a little bit about the book that you wrote and how that kind of came about.
So I really hate talking about myself, which is why I should say no when you ask me to come on. But here we are, right? I had the opportunity to. Well, let me back up a little bit. I am a avid miniature war gamer, and one of the games I play is a game called Kings of War, and it's put out by a company called Mantic Games, and they had started a set of novels, right? So they went in with a publisher named Wing to Sar Publishing, and they said, okay, we want to do some novels to talk about the background of our game, right? And they put out a call for authors. And at the time, I had actually done one of the other people that I had gained with, who lives out in the western part of the country, out in Oregon. He was an author, and he had sent me a manuscript to look over. He said, "Hey, could you do me a favor? I know that you do some gaming. Just give this a once over." So I looked over his manuscript before he presented it to the company. He got a book deal, and I said, "Well, that's pretty cool. Good on you." And then he sent a thing back to me. He said, "There's a call for authors, and I want you to put in for it." I'm like, "I've never written a whole story, dude. Like, I don't know if I can do it." He goes, "I don't know what I'm doing either. Stop acting like you have to know what you're doing. Just put in a sample, right, and go from there."
Okay.
So yeah,
right.
So I put together about 1,000 words, 2,000 words, doesn't matter. Sent it in. I said, "This is a story that I think would be pretty cool." And the publisher called me back and said, "Listen, this is good. We hate your premise, but we love the writing. The writing seems pretty good, right? But this
It's a compliment, I guess.
Well, it is. I mean, he was like, "Listen, do a story, just don't do this one." I said, "Okay, no problem." So we talked back and forth. He goes, "Well," I said, "Well, what do you think is going to be good?" And he goes, "Well, what army do you play in the game?" I go, I play dwarves." He goes, "Well, do a novel about dwarves." And so it's a novel. It's a fantasy novel set in this fictional world where the dwarves have been displaced from their ancestral home, right? And they have to essentially get their clans together and then go back and reclaim their homeland, right? So I got the book deal set. I was given 15 months to write the novel, and then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden I had all this free time, which made it really easy to write, right? When no one's going anywhere, you have like 1 or 2 hours every evening to sit down with a glass of something and, bang away on the keyboard. And yeah, I ended up writing essentially the whole thing. Now, the interesting thing about that is I wrote the novel. I had some friends who I'm an avid reader, other people were avid readers, and I showed them the novel and I said, what do you think? And I was only getting like pretty good like praise. This is really good. This is, and so when you submit the novel to the publisher, finally I go, here's my draft. Let me know what you think. And then I had to wait a while. And then when they came back, they said, hey, we need to talk. Here are all the things that need to be improved. And I was like, how dare you call my baby ugly?
And what did you think after going through it?
Right.
After going through it with them?
It was, So it's funny. Like after I had to walk it off. Right. I was like, oh my God, how dare you?
It's your baby.
Personal attack on it.
Well, a little bit. And then at least the pride in me took it as such. I was like, what do these people know? Except for the fact that they're publishers and editors. Right?
But they do this for their job.
Exactly. But after I, got myself together, I was like, you know what? You're right. There's too many words here. There's no framing here. This is the wrong point of view character. Okay, let me go back and fix that up. And then once that was done, it took a while for the novel, once it was done, to be published, but now it's out in the wild, and it's been out for about a year and a piece now. And it's really surreal. If you go and Google Mike Rossy, there's a novel attached to my name.
Yes.
Right.
The novel is called Honor's Price.
Yep.
So look it up. It's sold on Amazon.
It is.
Amongst other places.
Yep. And you can get it on your Kindle or your e-reader.
You can.
Yep.
It's funny, you're talking about you never, written before like this, but it reminds me of something, and it's a little bit different because it's D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, but I remember someone saying something to the effect of, well, is the point to win? And the answer is no. The point is to tell a good story.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's kind of, basically what you do is storytelling.
Right.
And now you're just taking that story and putting it on a page.
Right. It's funny. The wargaming thing I've been doing for a very long time, but also been playing Dungeons and Dragons because I am a hardcore nerd in a lot of ways, right? It is what it is. I'm 52. I should own it. And but I wasn't always like that, So when I moved up to Albany when I was 11, and up from Philadelphia. We moved up in May, and my mom had a birthday party for me in June, and so she invited all the boys from the town, from my school, had a birthday party, and I opened up the gifts, and one of the gifts was the original red box beginner's set for Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm like, well, that's cool. I have no frame of reference for what this is, but this seems pretty cool. And there's the kid, his name is Keith, lived four doors down. He was like, yeah, we'll play it sometime. I was like, sweet, thanks. After everybody goes, my mom sits down with me. Now this was, 1980, whatever. And she proceeds to tell me that I cannot keep this box because the devil lives in this box, Josh.
Tough time for games and music at that
dude,
time.
Seriously, right?
Satanic panic
It was real. So the one thing she should not have told me is you can't do this, because now I'm like, well, now I'm going to do it twice, right? But the worst part is she said, okay, Mike, you have to return this to your friend. What? I just moved into town. I need to return. Oh my God! Like just throw it out. Okay, whatever. So I then take the box and the next day, and I walk the 4 doors down. And my mom is watching me from the porch because who knows? Maybe there are demons that are going to sweep out of the ground. Whatever.
It could happen.
It could. So I go to ding dong, and Keith comes to the door, and I look at him and I say, "Hey, just so you know, my mom says I can't keep this box in the house, but I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to be over Wednesday, and you and I are going to go play this." He goes, "Oh, that's great." And I said, "Now I'm going to turn around. I'm going to act like I'm mad." And he goes, "All right, well, catch you Wednesday, right?" So I turn around and make this face, right? And so that was my first foray into gaming, was because my mom was like, "You can't do this." If she had just left it there, I would have just continued to play football on the street and been done with it. But nope, that was the thing.
Somebody told you no.
Well, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And now you know the rest of
the story.
I think there's a certain amount of that, right?
So you are, if I'm not mistaken, you are getting ready to, in the process of writing a second novel?
I just signed a contract to write a second novel, so that's cool.
Is it
It's
the
a
same
sequel.
theme?
Yeah, it's a sequel. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes if I can find some spare time, because I'm pretty sure there isn't going to be a pandemic this year. Knock, knock, right?
Well, that goes back to my kind of tongue-in-cheek when I said lightweight. You are, in my eyes, kind of like a Renaissance man. You do a lot of things. You do a ton, and it has a lot of variety as well.
Yeah.
You know, and do you think that this kind of contributes to your passion at work too? It's sort of a thread that kind of continues?
I think so. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do has to do with solving problems, right? And I don't know. I love the work that I do. I think that I'm involved in really cool projects, and I'm able to work with some really cool people to do it. And so in that way, I'm really, really lucky. And one of the major things, if you take a look at, like, let's say a war game, or it really is an exercise in problem solving, right? I have a set of units. I need to go to your side of the table and take these objectives or whatever, and you're trying to stop me. So now I'm constantly doing math and constantly doing risk analysis in my head, and then on the fly making changes. And that speaks to the part of my brain that really gets engaged at work when we're tackling like a really cool problem, right? And so I feed off of that, I think. And even when I do, like, let's say martial arts and sparring, I love doing kata and just the technique of it. But sparring is really cool because you're doing the same thing in a physical way. It's like, I have a set of skills, you have a set of skills. I need to, like, find ways around and to neutralize the stuff that you are good at and not get messed up in the process, right? And so that again, I think keeps hitting that button in my brain over and over again, right? And just in different venues. So I don't know. It's cool.
Well, Mike, thanks again for taking some time and chatting with us about this. Honor's Price is the name of the book. Go ahead and go get it.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Well, our DOT employees certainly keep DOT buzzing. And MaryEllen Papin, DOT Maintenance Environmental Program Manager, is certainly no exception. She's our next guest, and she shares how she has expanded her passion for the environment into a seriously sweet hobby: beekeeping and making honey.
So, MaryEllen Papin here with us talking about hobbies. Now, MaryEllen, you're a seasoned veteran when it comes to the podcast. You actually were on with us a couple years ago, almost now, talking about pollinators. But for those who haven't heard that episode, shame on you, you should. But for those who may not remember, tell us quickly about yourself and what you do here for DOT.
I'm the Maintenance Environmental Program Manager in the Office of Transportation Management here at DOT.
And you're usually working out in the Rochester area, the Region 4, that kind of area of work normally.
Correct. I work for the main office, but I'm housed out of the Rochester region.
Gotcha. So I think we talked about this, especially because it was a pollinator episode, and the importance of pollinators and what DOT is doing to help with that. But you are personally helping with the pollinator population and things of that nature. You have bees. You are an apiarist? Is that what it would be
That's
called?
correct.
Oh, good.
I would describe myself as a small-scale hobbyist beekeeper.
Well, this is the hobby episode. That works out for us. So I guess we'll start with what made you want to start having bees, because I think a lot of people, especially growing up, you're like, oh, bees, they sting. I don't care for that. My son is terrified of bees. But you're like, no, I want them in my yard. How did that start?
I would say it was a curiosity thing more than anything else. I had a friend, also a DOT employee, that was going to be getting a package of bees. And when I say a package of bees, it's like a shoebox full of bees that spring. And she said, hey, you want to try this too? And I thought, that would be kind of interesting to see how that whole thing works. So just curiosity.
So what do you need? I mean, I just hand you a shoebox full of bees. By the way, that's a great visual. Just to hand you a shoebox full of bees. As far as what do you need to get started? If someone was interested in this, you can't just get a shoebox full of bees and put them in your backyard and be like, we're done here. Like, you have to have a little bit of infrastructure. So what is needed in order to be able to do this?
Well, you have to have a place that you're comfortable putting them. And at first, I did put them in my backyard, my suburban backyard. That ended up becoming a little bit uncomfortable at one point. I had a hive that was kind of a hot and spicy bunch. So
delicate way to put it.
So had access to some land in the country and moved them out there. But you need a hive. When I started, I used a different kind of hive that quickly learned was not good for this climate. So switch to a Langstroth, just a traditional stack of boxes that you'll see. You need obviously a spot where you're comfortable to put them. And that's pretty much for the beginning infrastructure. The frames that they can build their comb on inside the hive.
Now, do you have a suit of some sort?
Oh, yeah, I wear a suit.
Okay, just checking.
I know people who don't.
Oh.
My brother has more hives than I do, and he's pretty comfortable at most times of the year not wearing a suit when he does that and not wearing gloves. I'm not so much.
Bold decision. So how many hives do you have?
I typically have 2. It's always good to have a second one. I learned that first year that when you only have one, that's really not good if something happens to your queen and she's lost. If you have a second hive, that way if you don't have any uncapped brood in the first hive, you could move a frame from one to the other and give them a chance to make a queen out of uncapped brood and continue to be viable.
Obviously, and last time you were here, you brought honey. This time you brought lip balm made with said honey. How much honey are you able to get? And what is the process of harvesting? I don't even know what the word would be.
It all depends, Josh. It depends on whether your hive is strong that particular year, with the weather conditions. There's so many factors. Last year, I wasn't able to harvest anything because I lost my hives over the winter, so I had to start from new. They rebuild. Those didn't get strong enough over the course of the year that I felt comfortable taking honey out, left it for them for the winter. Hopefully this year will be a better year. We'll see. I use the medium frames. Those are the bars that go inside the hive. And there's short, there's medium, and there's the standard size. If you've got one medium box and those frames are about, 6.5, 7 inches tall maybe, with 10 frames, if those are full, that can be 35 to 40 pounds of honey.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned didn't make it through the winter. It is brutally cold right now. Very snowy. It's been a rough winter. How do you, to the best of your ability, protect the bees so that they do survive the winter?
The stronger your hive going into the winter, the better your chances are. They do scale back their population going into the winter, so they have less, but they have to, at the same time, have a big enough population in there because they kind of form a ball or a cluster to keep warm, and they'll rotate within that ball. And, there's a lot of metabolic activity going on in there to try to keep them warm. But some people insulate their hives in some ways. I've never done that. When you do that, that can help, but it can also cause too much moisture in there, which can be a problem in and of itself. What I try to do every year is just to put an upwind windbreak to just kind of cut that wind that's roaring across that field where I keep them in the southern tier a little bit. But I think one of the most important things is the strength of your colony going into the winter.
So ultimately, I'm sure people have asked you this, why? Why is this something that you decided to do, wanted to do, enjoy doing?
Well, like I said before, I was very curious about it. They're amazing to watch. The organization that occurs in a way that there's no way you and I can understand, I don't think is amazing. But I also, maybe counterintuitively to some people listening who haven't tried this, I find it oddly relaxing. You're kind of working in this cloud of if you do something unwise, maybe potential danger. But while that's going on, it's really very relaxing because you have to focus on what you're doing. You have to kind of move slowly so that you're not inducing panic in them or anything that's going to end up punishing you or that they view you as a threat. But just that moving slow and that being forced to think about what you're doing, it ends up being a very relaxing experience.
And allow us now to transition from beekeeping to a very different subject. Our next guest enjoys sharing his love of trap shooting with younger generations as a coach at his local high school. We want to welcome Ken Bibbons, Assistant Commissioner for Operations for DOT. Welcome, Ken.
Hey, Ken.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. So I guess we'll start out. Can you just share a little bit about you and about your role here at DOT?
So I'm Assistant Commissioner for Operations, which means I'm overseeing the vast majority of our folks out in the field that make it happen. They're responsible for plowing snow during the winter, fixing guide rail during the summer, fixing traffic signals, keeping our fleet running, inspecting commercial vehicles, issuing permits to oversized loads that need to move around the state. So
Right.
a lot of moving parts, a lot of great folks out in the field that probably do a fantastic job of making me look better than I deserve.
Because you have a lot of free
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Clearly,
Yeah,
you have a lot
exactly.
of free time. Not very busy.
Yeah.
Like I get it. And that's why you're able to come down and chat with us. But
Yeah.
we do appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule and chat with us, especially in the dead of winter, where I'm sure you are busy with
Right.
snow prep, removal, just snow. Just
Never
snow.
ending.
Just
Right.
snow.
Never
the snow.
ending.
All the
I-
snow. Well, let's get into what it is that you do as far as trap shooting is concerned. So I guess we should start out for people who don't know much
Right.
about the sport. My hands in the air. What is trap shooting?
So everybody's probably seen an instance where you'll see a clay target, we call it a clay pigeon, get thrown out from a mechanical machine and somebody shoots at it with a shotgun. So that's just a clay target. Trap shooting is a very particular sport in that realm, and it's got a very regimented setup on how the field is constructed, where the shooters shoot from, how the birds are presented, that type of thing. So you'll hear trap shooting and skeet shooting used interchangeably. They're both shooting at a clay target, but they're very different setups as far as number of stations, how the birds are presented to the shooter, those types of things.
I remember doing some of that when I was a kid growing up in Michigan, and you just said pull and out it came and you tried to follow it and hit it. But there's a lot more art to this. When did you get started in this? Was this something that was like a passion in your family? How did this start?
So I'm actually the first person in my family that did this. It was actually a very close friend in high school. His father was a very, very faithful trap shooter, would shoot a couple of times a week in different leagues, and he would pay his son and myself to reload shells for him to go do that. So we're like, hey, what is all this about? So one day he took us, and I've just kind of been hooked ever since.
And you've taken this to a different level, though. I mean, I look at you and I see you as not just a public servant in a very major way with your role here at DOT, but you are also a coach for high schoolers.
I am a coach. I'm the coach at the South Jeff High School in Adams, New York, up in Jefferson County. That came about actually at the time I was serving on the school board there, and a neighboring school was the first district in the state, Belleville-Henderson. It's actually a district that my wife teaches at. One of the trap shooters that we compete with every week was the superintendent of the Belleville district, started the team, and we were looking to grow that. So I'm like, well, hey, we could start a team here at South Jeff. And it came about relatively quickly once we decided, hey, we're going to try and make this happen.
And what was the response from the students who now for the first time had a chance to take part in this?
It was. I was very impressed. It was bigger than we expected. Our team, it sort of varies somewhere between 25 to 30-ish to maybe 35 to 40 shooters on any given year, and it's been in that range ever since we started back in 2016.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it does for young people to have something like this in their lives?
Well, obviously there's an appetite for it if we're able to field a team of 36 every year. But
Yeah.
on top of that, if you look at who the kids are that are joining the team, it's a very diverse swath of the high school. And I mean, that's everything from, very renowned athletes that are in the more traditional sports that kids would play in high school versus kids that wouldn't otherwise participate in extracurricular activities because it's not things that they're used to joining or enjoying doing. And then I'll use this year's team as a perfect example. I have a student who is very likely to be our top shooter for the team this year. He was the team's top shooter last year. He has a health issue that keeps him from being able to play in regular sports.
Oh, okay.
But
Gives them an opportunity to be a part of a
Yeah.
team and
exactly,
yeah,
and you wouldn't be able to tell that if you didn't know this kid. Just very, great mindset, very helpful to the other kids, points out, hey, maybe that bird, you look at doing this way next time and see if that makes a difference for you. Just great kid in general, but wouldn't otherwise have a sporting opportunity if the team didn't exist. So it's stuff like that really keeps my interest going.
So how many schools in the area have teams? How are you able to compete? What does that look like?
So there is a league that runs statewide. I actually can't tell you how many teams there are statewide, but I believe it's in the triple digits. There is a significant chunk of schools around the North Country who participate. I will get it wrong if I try to tell you the actual number, but there are way more districts that do have teams than there are districts that don't. There is a state tournament every year. It's a sight to behold. There are 24 trap fields on a single piece of property all in one line. So you can picture the size of the property to begin with, and now put hundreds of students all with a shotgun on the same property and say, hey, here's how we're going to do this over the next 3 days, because it takes 3 days to process all of the teams through. It's amazing to watch. And I would never expect to be able to do this to begin with if it wasn't for our neighboring district being brave and sticking their neck out and saying, hey, we should try this.
Right, and a real commitment on the part of the adults who are involved as well.
Exactly. And that, think about what it takes to produce an event like that. That's done all volunteer. There's not a single person that's working to make that event happen that's getting paid.
Got to give it up for the volunteers,
absolutely.
Always.
And the coaches.
Oh,
Ken,
yeah.
Thank you so much. This sounds fantastic and really cool. Like I said, I'm not super familiar with it. It was not something I had an opportunity to do growing up, but that's really cool. And again, just to see the extension of your public service interests and your community work is awesome. We really appreciate you. I know we joked, but we do appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to chat with us about this.
Oh, you bet. Happy to do it. Happy to have the opportunity.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, thank you both.
Well, all of our guests clearly today are lifelong learners, allowing their passions and hobbies to take them wherever they lead, which is honestly pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. These were really great conversations today. Thanks to Mike, Ken, and MaryEllen for joining us and for sharing their stories with us.
And thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in wherever and however you may be doing so. You got a hobby? You got a topic you want us to talk about? Podcast at dot.ny.gov. It's the easiest way to do it. That's podcast at dot.ny.gov. So she's Anya. I'm Josh. Until next time, we'll be right here on the DOT. POD.